And welcome in to another edition of Pod App with Matthews in the Morning. I'm Pat Dooley, the sports columnist of the Gainesville Sun, and Shayne's away on a little bit of an emergency, so I'm going to do the show today. We got a couple special guests, both of them kickers, both of them golfers. But a lot has been going on in the world of sports, which is amazing because in the world of sports, nothing's going on, right? But it has been amazing, all the news that keeps breaking. This week has been a lot of optimism, I think, as far as if you're only taking the view of we want our sports back, a lot of optimism. If you have a global view and you're looking at people are still dying, people are still dealing with this thing, it's still spreading. There's no question about it. You may be a little bit more pessimistic, but we're only going to talk about the football side of this and other sports side of it. Because we heard a lot of things this week that were certainly interesting. Now, in one case, the University of Iowa said, "Hey, we're starting practice June 1st." And like you go, "Well, but what?" You have schools opening. Texas A&M is opened up. All of its 12. I think they have 11 Texas A&M campuses. LSU has said, "We're going to start bringing people back slowly." You're seeing it more and more. Slowly, people are going to bring this thing back and try to get their campuses going. At the same time, we have the commissioner of the SEC, Greg Sankey, saying, "Hey, if everybody's not ready to go when we're all ready to go, when everybody else is ready to go, no soup for you. We're just going to play. You're sorry if you can't do it. We get it. We understand." And then you have Bob Bowlesby coming out this week as well, and saying, "Look, my big fear is that we have another spike in the coronavirus and we have to cancel the season again." And here was an interesting thing. He said, what if you're sitting there, let's just say Texas is playing at Colorado, and all of a sudden Texas, they have an issue, and there are students on campus and there are players who all of a sudden test positive, get sick. Texas doesn't feel good about traveling to Colorado. Is that a forfeit? Or is it, well, we understand we're just not going to play that game. So I think we're more likely to start football earlier than I thought that we would, but there's no guarantees that we're going to continue to play football. But I think all of us are just so desperate for sports right now. I actually watched last night. I watched the fourth quarter of the Michigan-Ohio State game from 3 years ago. It was a great game, but it was, that's where we are. We're tired of watching games we already know who won. Because the great thing about sports is that sports is unscripted. Those games aren't unscripted. We could even look it up, the script, if we want to, and find out exactly what happened on this play. So, yeah, but we are kind of moving towards the possibility of having a season that doesn't start ridiculously late. I still find it hard to believe that we're going to start on September 5th, that Florida is going to play Eastern Washington. In the first place, I cannot imagine a school traveling across the country about as far as you can go. It's almost impossible to fly further than Eastern Washington to Gainesville, Florida. I guess if you're in Western Washington, you could go all the way to Miami. That's about the only difference. Or if Florida ever plays Anchorage, I find it hard to believe that game will take place on that day. What they may end up doing is rescheduling it with them for 4 or 5 years down the road, the way they did with Idaho. Remember, the Idaho game got rained out. They played one play in that game, which was we sat there for hours. Then they came out, they stretched, they got loose, they got ready, and they ran back the kick. Valdez Showers ran it back 79 yards to set Florida up for a touchdown, and then the lightning hit again, and boom, we're off. And no game was played. They ended up playing the game last year, was it? No, the year before. So you can see a situation like that with that Eastern Washington game. I find it hard to believe that game and even the New Mexico State game much later in the year will be played. So that's one of the things that, again, as we've got so much news to digest here that you can talk about. But, like Mike Bianchi wrote a column today. And, of course, Mike Bianchi used to be the columnist here at the Gainesville Sun. I actually hired him here, which was a brilliant move on my part because he's a very good writer. He had a column where he talked about that this is an opportunity for colleges not to, to kind of trim back their budgets. They're big bloated pigs as it is. We get that. Colleges are spending ridiculous amounts of money. Athletic departments are spending ridiculous amounts of money on things. And he had 10 suggestions, and about 3 of them were good. The other 7 were just terrible. But the ones that were really good, he didn't get to the one that I think is the best one, which is quit spending so much on recruiting. Bring kids down here, show them the campus. Great. Bring it in, how many visits you have to get. But you spend so much money flying all over the place to go into these families' houses. Restrict that. You could definitely do that. There are several other things you could do and I do think exactly what I just talked about a little bit. But for example, does Florida really? Now I know they want to. Does Florida softball team really need to go play in a West Coast tournament every year? No, the reason they do is it's a really good tournament with good teams, and they recruit a lot of players from the Los Angeles and California area. And they want to be able to promise them, hey, we're going to go back. Your parents are going to get to see you play every year. Yeah, I get that. But we're getting ready to go into a totally different time period here. This is going to be a sports world we're not used to seeing, with empty seats, a lot of empty seats, especially early in this process. Do you need to really be spending that kind of money? Do you need the kind of numbers you have as support staff people? Well, no, you don't need them. But guess what? Alabama's got them. Georgia's got them. Clemson's got them. And so Florida's got to have them. And that's the way everybody's thought, the total arms race. Now, one thing that Mike suggested was that you stop this arms race and building these Taj Mahals and water slides. It's too late. That ship has sailed. They're all built for the most part. Florida's is the only one that we're still waiting on, and the money's already been raised, and the people have been scheduled, and that's still going to happen. So, and it does need to happen. But, I do think that there are ways you could definitely trim the fat off the budgets, because even with what we're going to see, even if we come back and let's say we have a 10-game football season, you cut out a couple of the patsies and which would require travel for them. So you get down to a 10-game football season. You're still not going to generate the same kind of income you expected to. And you still have lost money, obviously, from the NCAA basketball tournament. Now, in Florida's case, they've said it's a wash for us because the money we won't spend going on baseball trips and softball trips and stuff like that and sending a team to track. We won't spend that money. So it really becomes a wash for us. So, but there's no question that when you look at the whole dynamics of it, there are ways to cut. But the funny thing is, everybody is going to I think you're going to see this happen where people are going to start cutting budgets because the sponsorships aren't going to be there the way they were. Don't forget, these are people or corporations that are losing money left and right because they can't open and the stock market's in the toilet. Well, some of that stuff will come back. And so you're going to lose money in the short range, but eventually you would think that money would come back. The question is whether you're still going to have 90,000 people in the stands 3 years from now. And if that's not the case, you're still not going to be able to generate the same kind of money. But if you maybe we do get back to normal. My gut is we're never going to see normal again. I think we're going to see a variation of normal down the road. But it'll be interesting to see how all these schools deal with the money. And now we've got, of course, NASCAR coming back. And I talked about this on our the show that Jeff Cardozo and I do on WRUF yesterday. I asked him this question: what sport needs its fans the least? And I'm not talking about how much you want your adoring fans. I'm not talking about how much money they generate by when you put hundreds of thousands of fans in these stadiums, I'm going to call them, because I'm not giving it away right away. All right. But his answer was golf. And I was like, yeah, no, golf doesn't really need fans as much. But NASCAR needs them least left. They don't hear those fans. They don't hear them until they get out of there. So the fans are not a factor. There's no home track advantage. You go out there and you race, and then when you go around in a circle forever, and then somebody wins. But the fans themselves are not a big. I don't think anybody would watch a NASCAR event, and the lack of fans would bother them. Now, it'll be interesting to see what happens with the NBA. Do they follow through on this plan to play in Disney and just basically take over Disney and stay in the hotels, play on all those courts down there to finish the season, and then see where they are, I guess, in terms of playoffs? That's one idea that's being floated out there, and it sounds like it makes a lot of sense. My daughter says, well, what about Disney World? And I go, there is no Disney World right now. Forget about it. It won't come back for a long time. It'll be one of the last things back. Like I've been saying all along, college sports will be the last thing back, because you have to have the people on campus. The students have to, because then you're basically saying it's okay for the students, for the players. It's not okay for the actual students. And that would be a totally different story. So that you're going to have, the commissioners have made it clear. We need our students on campus before we can play. Doesn't mean you can't practice without them. So you can get them on campus to start practicing, and they have practiced before without students on campus. So we've had all that news coming down in this last week, and it certainly has been interesting. And then, of course, the NIL stuff, where players can now get paid. It's still a wide open question that nobody really has the answers for, because they want Congress to do something about it, so they don't have to do it. The NCAA doesn't have to do it. I don't know. This feels like it's going to be a weird Pandora's box where, I'm you could say, I'm Kyle Trask for, Titan MRI, and you can make a lot of money. However, you can't wear your Gator jersey when you're doing it. So yeah, I guess you wear a generic, like, goofy jersey, and that could be a thing where those kind of things happen. So I don't know how people are going to feel about that as fans. But certainly it's going to be tough to monitor. I wonder about this too. We all know everybody's taking it on the chin financially right now. But now are you going to have to go hire another group of, like a small staff to monitor this, to make sure that NCAA violations aren't committed in terms of how much players are given to what they do? Or is it just wide open, wild, wild west, whatever you can do? If you're a football player at the University of Florida, I'm sorry, but you've walked into a restaurant or a bar and gotten something free before. And that's everywhere, okay? It's everywhere. It happens all the time. But now you can do it and say, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Now, before you kind of said, hey, don't tell anybody that you did. And I'm not saying this is rampant, but we all know it happens on campuses all over America. Now you walk in and you go, hey, I have a $400 tab here that they've given me for endorsing this place, and I'm buying shots for everybody. I mean, that's what it's going to come down to. So it's going to certainly be interesting. All right, I think we need to take a break here, and when we do, we'll come back two of my best friends from and this is going to be like the old days, talking to Judd Davis and Shayne Edge, the way we used to down in the bowels of the stadium, just sit there with our feet up and tell stories. And they were actually doing interviews at the time, but we would get off track and talk about other things. So we'll do that when we come back. Pot Up with Matthews in the morning.
Time out! Time out! Hey! Time out! Time out! Time out! There we go. Good.
So you're going to...
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Let's give them something to cheer for now.
Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security, small enough to serve you, large enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Peachland Dentistry, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and surrounding areas. Area Rug Masters, your #1 choice for rug cleaning. And Pound Hurt, preferred personal injury attorneys.
Our touchdown sponsors are Gator BTW, Campus USA Credit Union, Celebration Point Town Center, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, The Keys Grill and Piano Bar, UF Mover Guys, The Digital Mortgage Guy, Adams Ribs, Cloud9 Spa, Cold Stone Creamery, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Center State Bank.
If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, potupwithshayne.com, and click on the Advertise button or call Freddie Wiebe at 352-284-3733.
Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
He's looking, still looking. He's going for the end zone. He's got a touchdown.
He's in the morning. Pat Dooley taking over today while Shayne is out with a little emergency that he's having to deal with. And two guys who know all about emergencies joining us here. And great pleasure to talk to them. Two of my good friends, Judd Davis and Shayne Edge. Let's start with Judd because he is the better golfer of the two. Ooh. However, I have been told in your last round against Shayne that you incurred a 2-stroke penalty for slow play. Is that true or false?
Oh, no, he's already making excuses. Let's see. I beat him by, by 14 shots? No, 13 shots, Edge?
I don't think that's correct. That's incorrect.
You need a lot more than a 2. Pat, ask Edge what we both shot.
What did you shoot?
I don't remember. I remember what Judd shot. Judd played the best he's played in 7 years. He shot 3 under, by the way.
3 under?
Yes.
What is that all about?
I dropped a 68 on him, and he threw a little 81 on the board. But see, you don't hear about that, and that's what I used to do to him on a regular basis.
Well, that's
why you gotta lie on the radio.
That's because Judd is using his son's Kickers app. That's what the key is.
Listen, if every kicker in the country doesn't use that app, it's a travesty. Because I went through that thing. That is really, really nice.
Yeah, Judd, I actually downloaded Connor's app just after I wrote the story, just because I wanted to give him clicks. Obviously, I did not go out in the yard and start kicking though, but I got to figure out a way I can make that work for me. But I don't think it's going to help me be a kicker. But it is a great app, and it seems to be doing really well.
Yeah, see, that's the difference between going to an Ivy League school and then hanging out with Shayne Edge at Florida. Connor's actually he's actually doing things in this world and making things happen, where I'm playing golf with Edge every day. So, but yeah, that app is it's pretty cool. Connor's already working on another one. He started another friend who started an app called Fetch 352, which helps you can call up and have somebody go get anything for you. It's kind of like a mobile drivers. If you need somebody to go pick up a prescription or something, anything, they'll do it. So he helped write the code for that. And yeah, man, he's moving and shaking. He's better looking than me, smarter than me, better kicker than me, pretty much across the board.
The amazing thing to me is that both of you guys, I would not qualify either of you guys as athletes, and you both have athletes for sons that are playing at Division I.
Whoa. Wait a minute. Listen, you can say that about Judd, but you can't say that about me.
listen.
Listen, I was probably the best athlete on the team, period, without question. I remember going into the media room with Pat and Judd. We went in there and we were talking about whatever basketball, and I invited all you media guys, to go to the gym because Judd said, "Yeah, Shayne can dunk," and Pat said, "No, he can't." I said, "Well, if we'll go in the gym and I'll do a 360 right now, and you guys wouldn't go."
I don't recall that, but
I still have the article, by the way.
Do you have any video of you dunking though? That's the
No,
question.
I got to give credit. Edge had some hops, man. Yeah, I've seen him. I used to see him 360. Now he weighs 360, so that ain't happening.
Listen, if I'd have known this was a Shayne Edge disc track, I would have come up with some stuff.
Hey Shayne, what was it like when Judd was out there trying to take your job as a punter?
It was pretty good, because I knew it wasn't going to happen. No, no, really. When I first came in, I graduated early, came in the spring, and Judd was a punter. And we just happened to become real good friends, and we trying to get the same position. And I can remember, going into the game, still not knowing who was going to be the starting punter. And we didn't punt the first half of the San Jose State game. And coach comes in the little locker room where we're sitting, and he said, "Shayne, you got the first one?" Well, of course, the first one I hit was about, 30.
Hey, this is where I need to take over the story, Edge. I got to give you props. So Edge promptly, and they hadn't known a spiral punted in the Florida field, and as you remember, Pat, in 10 years. So Edge was supposed to be the savior. So Shayne goes out there and hits this half shank off the side of his foot. I don't know, Edge went 30 yards maybe.
Yeah, it was about 30, 34 yards.
Yeah, he comes off the field. He's white as a ghost. He comes up to me and he's like, Judd, what am I doing? I said, just relax. And so, but inside I'm going, all right, man, here I go. But here's my chance, right? So coach says, Shayne, you got one more. He tells him to take another one. So I'm getting fired up, thinking I'm going to get a chance. Well, the next one, Harold Monk fires this high snap, and I'm thinking it's going over Shayne's head. Shayne takes one step back, jumps up, one hands it over his head, brings it down, boom, and I think Shayne, it was a 58-yarder. After catching with one hand, I think, Pat, it was the loudest point of the whole game. And then you hit another 60-yarder, another punt later. So I undid my pads and just sat down on the bench and just sat there and watched Edge, take over. But then the next day I was back to kicking field goals. And then at that time, Art Krzyzewski, who was a great kicker, was kicking field goals. So I kind of redshirted and waited for Art to move on. And then that's when I, focused more on field goal. But Edge was, I gave him a run for his money, but Edge, I couldn't hang with Edge on the punting. He could crush it.
Well, and you went there as a walk-on, right? And Shayne, though, was a highly recruited punter, so highly recruited he couldn't get into Steve Spurrier's office.
Oh yeah. They Jamie carried me up to the office to meet Coach Spurrier one of my visits. I'm 30 minutes up the road, so I went down there quite a bit, especially on game days, and we went to the secretary, and hey, Shayne's here to see Coach Spurrier, and we waited, and then finally Jamie went in there and said, "Hey, Coach, we got Shayne Edge here to see you." He said, "Hey, we don't punt much in here."
Man, dude, he was Edge. You remember when Shayne Edge and our roommates, Shayne? Remember, I was frustrated because I wasn't getting a chance. And I told Shayne, I said, Edge, I'm going to go see Coach, and I'm going to tell him how I feel. I said, you ain't going to see him. No way. And remember, Edge were laying in there in the room. I said, I'm going. I'm going.
Oh, listen, we talked about it for 2 weeks, and finally Judd had enough. He said, listen, I'm a better kicker than the guy that's kicking. He said, I'm going to talk to him. I said, hey, man, that's the best thing for you to do. Let's go.
And I went up there, and the secretary stood up front, and he said, Coach is in there. So I went in there, and Coach was behind his big desk. And I said, Coach, you got him in? And, he's looking up at me like, what is this walk-on kicker doing in my office? And I just said, Coach, I think I should be given a shot. So, and I told him, and I think, he kind of listened to me. Oh, okay, Judd. Okay. All right. And so Wednesday comes around, and that was Wednesday. Then the day of the game is South Carolina, and our kicker missed one. And Edge was sitting out in the hallway. The kicker's hanging out, eating bananas. And Spurrier comes in at half. He walks up. He looks down at us, and he said, okay, Judd, you're up. And I look over at you, and Shayne and I run out at halftime. The band is still on the field, and we start weaving through the band to go to the other end of the field to warm up. Of course, my parents are in the stands. They see me warming up. They think, oh, boy. So, Edge, remember we started kicking, and every time I made one, the crowd would cheer. And then you said, oh, forget this. We're going deep. Remember? Because you wanted the crowd to get louder.
We went back to 50, and I said, and Judd hit it, of course. And I said, hey, let's go back a little bit further because I loved it. It was so much fun, Pat, sitting on there. Because there was nothing else. You know, you're going to watch. People are going to watch the band. Okay, great. All right. But when we're out there kicking, they're going to see if he was going to make it or miss it or leave it short or whatever the case was. Man, we had a ball. And then I believe Judd went in for the extra points for the first one, right?
Yeah, we kicked 2 extra points, and then the next week was at Vandy, and remember Edge, and then Spur named me the starter, and then my first ever field goal attempt was 47 yards. Remember that, Edge? I thought,
first ever make.
Yeah, and luckily, you know, I drilled it, and then I made another one, and Coach gave me one of the game balls. So I go from, you know, Wednesday in the office telling him that I made transfer, you know, and so I think to this day, if I don't see Coach on Wednesday, Edge, if I see him, maybe he doesn't give me that chance. You know, you never know with Coach.
I believe you would have got the chance because it was a little bit of a struggle for the guy in front of us who I really liked. I mean, I love Bart, but you know, when you're roommates with the guy and then you're pulling for him as much as we can, and you know, I just wanted him to be able to kick, and of course we traveled. We always traveled together. We roomed together. It was and after that, boy, it was Katie barred the doors. There wasn't nobody getting in those positions.
And you guys went to media opportunities together. You guys never showed up separately. You always walked in there together. And we'd sit there and go, okay, we're going to be entertained for about 15 minutes. Let's enjoy this.
We were, yeah. And, you know, Edge and I always talk. I think that was one thing that made us successful is it was not taking everything so serious. I mean, we were just so relaxed and joking around that I think that's what helped us. You know, Edge, we were kind of the opposite of what normal guys are.
No, I agree with that. You know, I can remember after that first game we talked about earlier, you know, Coach, you know, talking about game balls, and Tim Shayne actually said, what about the punter? And Coach said, hey, we'll see how he does in the back of the end zone against Alabama or something like that. The first punt of the game against Alabama the very next week, I was in the end zone, and I hit that thing about 38 yards. It was terrible. I was scared, but after the first 3 or 4 games, I never got nervous anymore. I just went out there and did our jobs.
Pat, one time,
I got to
go ahead.
No, Zan, I got to ask you because about the famous Florida Georgia game in the monsoon, and that's where Judd basically won the Lou Groza Award. Whether you were nervous kicking those because it's almost like if you missed it, nobody was going to blame you because it was the conditions are so awful. When you kick 4 and you face every time, if I make it, it's a.
Edge, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh yeah. Well, that, you know, we go out pregame, Pat, and as you remember, I think it was 3 inches of rain before the game, and we just stood there and started laughing. Edge, we didn't kick one ball pregame, and I said, we're not going to kick any field goals, Edge. You're going to be punting all day. And Edge, you ended up punting one time, and we kicked 4 field goals. And we would go out there, Pat, and I would just kind of try to push the puddles and the mud away. And I said, Edge, just put it down. And I would just like dig it out, and it would spray Edge's face with mud every time. I was still clean, and he'd stand up and be mud dripping from his face, and we'd headbutt each other afterwards. And he said, just keep doing that. And you can spray me all the whole game.
Oh yeah, Judd. But hey, Edge, I'm sorry. I said, man, you make it every time. It doesn't matter. I said, but if you miss, we're gonna have a problem.
Well, yeah, obviously it came down to that. You know, making those 4 field goals was the whole game.
Oh, and, you know, Eric Rett rushing for like 200 yards in the last play of the game with Eric Zier. I mean, yeah, that was pretty awesome. And like I said, and then I remember Spur in the press conference afterwards, he said the only reason I made him because I was a golfer. And he said, yeah, Judd, he got out there with his wedge, and it's a bad lie. And he would just chop down on it, and that's how we did it. So he said that's the only reason I made him, because I knew how to hit it out of bad lies with a wedge.
Pat, after Judd beat my eyes out this week in golf, we went over and he showed me his new crib, and there's a picture of that he showed me where I have no sock on my right leg. I just took the sock completely off because we were so wet that I couldn't. If I did have to punt, I couldn't get anything on the punt. But it's a great picture. There's mud everywhere. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I would get that picture. Where was that in the Gainesville Sun or?
I don't know where it was from, but I mean, Edge is covered in mud and he's got his hands on my helmet. And yeah, that was the heck. And you're right, Pat. That game right there did win me the Groza. I mean, that's a lot of people saw it, and it was a lot of those kicks. I mean, just that they went through is luck. I mean, I don't know how I would just slap it and it was going through, but. Yeah, that was.
What's
I got to
amazing is how you have a holder that's so good.
Well, I was Edge. That was my next. I got to say, I've had a lot of holders in my life, but Edge used to hope for a bad hold, so he could show us stuff. Now, I will say the one time he Charlie Brown me one time, Edge, if you remember that, and I think my quad is still laying out on that field. I took a step, Edge fumbled it, bobbled it. I stopped, and then he got it down, and I went ahead and kicked. He pulls out as my leg goes flying through. I mean, true Charlie Brown, Lucy. And then he takes off running. I roll left. Remember, I'm going to the back of the end zone. I'm screaming. Nobody's within 20 yards of me, and I'm thinking, please throw it to me. Please throw it to me. And Edge rolls right to Edge. Would you drop it? Is that what happened? You dropped it and it bounced up? And
I'm running around. I drop the ball. I hit my knee. It pops back up to me, and I turn around and throw the ball, and some big linebacker hits me, all 260 pounds of him lands on top of me. I thought I was going to die. But, yeah, it was fun. We had a good time.
Well, the thing is, Judd never really got hit playing football. You got hit a lot. Of course, you ran the famous run against, Alabama in the SEC championship game that set up the win right there. But so you didn't mind getting hit for different reasons.
Well, Edge, Edge Spurrier got credit for calling a fake punt there, and that had nothing to do with Coach Edge. I mean, you took off because you didn't think you were going to be able to get it off.
Well, earlier in the game, there was a snap, and somebody broke through the line. It was a good snap, but they just were really close on blocking the punt. And I said, well, there's no way if the snap's not perfect, I'm taking off. I don't care. It doesn't matter because I'm not going to get a punt blocked in the SEC championship game. And it was just a little bit high and right, and I took off and weaved in and out of a couple players. And the linebacker, again, he hit me, and I couldn't feel anything. I was so amped up. I had so much adrenaline going through me. I was on the ground, and you can see it on the video. I'm pointing my finger in the guy's face, and I'm telling him, I said, we're going to beat y'all's eyes out.
Well,
and
Pat,
very next play,
Pat,
Jack
that Edge, you did that again. Now, that was 93 or 94 you did that? And that was 93?
That was 93 in the SEC championship game. Now,
Okay,
I did it again in LSU.
No, in 92, so he ran. So I'm playing. So let's just fast forward. I'm playing last year in the Chick-fil-A Classic with Mullen. I'm his partner, and we're playing with Dabo Sweeney, because when they team up coaches and players. And on the first tee, Dabo walks up to me and says, hey, Judd, you played in the 92 SEC championship. He goes, do you remember when your punter, Shayne Edge, tried to take off for a fake punt? And I said, yeah, because remember, Ed, you got nailed. You got stuffed. And Dabo, he said it was about a loss of about 12. He goes, yeah, you remember that? I said, yeah, that's exactly right. I remember that. And he goes, Dabo looked at me and said, you know who hit him? And I said, no. He said, you're looking at him. And I'm like, get out of here. And so I called Edge from the golf course and said, I'm playing with Dabo, Coach Sweeney. And we looked up the video, and there's this little guy with Sweeney on his jersey, and he brought
number 88.
And he said that was the biggest tackle for loss the entire season. And he was so tickled by it. I had forgot that Dabo played for Bama. That was a heck of a story.
Judd calls me up and he says, hey, Edge, do you know who tackled you? And I said, no. He said, I go up on the tee box, and Sweeney says, hey, why don't you ask your boy Shayne Edge who laid him out?
That's amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, though. Do you know how many tackles you had, Shayne, as a football player during your Florida career? I know you got in trouble and you got in a fight in your NFL career, but in your college career,
you know what? I really don't know, but I do know it's a few. I probably averaged about 3 or 4 a season. Because I would go down there and I was probably a lot further up the line than I should have been, but I just enjoyed it. So I got my bell rung against Mississippi State one game. Kedra Malone, I mean, I was flowing, of course, like I was flowing with the running back or returner, and a guy pretty much blindsided me and knocked the breath out of me. And I was always a guy, get up, it doesn't matter. They're not going to carry me off the field. Well, Kedra Malone, I'm sitting on the ground, and Kedra Malone picks me up and says, "Come on, man, we got to go. We got to get up." Well, we just happened to go off in front of Spurrier, and Spurrier looks in my eyes and he says, "Hey, get him some smelling salts." So, so I got lit up that day, but I have about 3 or 4 a year, seems like.
And I'm guessing after every kickoff, Judd just ran away, right?
Yeah. Well, hey, let me tell you. Did we tell you the story about when we were playing? What was it? I guess West Virginia in the Sugar Bowl.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
End of the game, we're up. What is it? There's like 5 minutes left. We're up 37. We're killing them 37. And Florida State is playing Nebraska for the national championship. And Edge and I are at the other end of the field watching the game on a little television. Remember that, Edge? So we're down there watching, and we're held it over. And all of a sudden, we hear this commotion, and we look out, and the field goal team's on the field. They're out. They're running out, and we had no idea. Edge hits me. I had to find my helmet, and we sprinted out there. Edge 43-yarder. I'm like, oh my God, we're not going to make this.
And we barely get there. Judd barely takes his steps because we're in such a hurry. And I said, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. And of course, they kick it. We make the field goal, and we're good.
And Spurrier didn't see it, thank goodness, because I remember when I was running back to the sidelines, I was looking to go the other end of the field because I didn't want to look him in the eye. I was afraid to go to that end. I just
listen. Things like that with us happen all the time. I remember, and we were taking pictures. I was taking the pictures with Ric Flair on the sidelines during the Sugar Bowl, and they were hollering for punt team. And I get out there late, and I got to get a picture with Flair. I don't need, punt's coming. So. Or I would wear the wrong helmet, Judd. You remember that?
Oh, man, Pat, one time, Edge, we used to keep our helmets right there on the big fan on the sidelines, and punt team, and Edge grabs the helmet. Well, he grabs mine. Okay, well, my big melon, my helmet's bigger than Edge. Edge's got a little pea head. Edge runs out there. He looks like a bobblehead. My helmet's moving around, and the top of the helmet's down in his eyes, and he can barely see, because I realized that. I look, and I'm like, oh, damn, he's got the wrong helmet. And that's one of the biggest punts you'd ever hit. I mean, he hit a rocket. Yeah. So from that point on, for the rest of the time at Florida, he would have to come and tap my helmet with his hand before he would go out and punt.
The helmet was good luck.
You guys were on Twitter telling the story about wearing the dark visors, and that was a great story too. Tell that story.
Oh, we thought we were going to be the coolest. Remember when the visors at the scene? They had the mirrored visor, the orange visors, and the black. Edge and I go to the training room, and we get these 2 black visors. I said, we're going to be the only 2 kickers in the country wearing visors. It's going to be so sweet. I don't know what we were thinking, Edge. We go to practice, and I'm thinking I'm going to look so cool out there kicking field goals with the visor. And Coach Spurrier calls punt team. Edge runs out there to punt. Spurrier stops, and he looks at Edge like, I could, before even Spurrier said anything, I thought, oh, my God. And he stopped everything. I don't even know what he said to you, Edge. He said,
what are you doing?
It's so bad. Field goal team is next. Like 5 minutes later, I'm backing away slowly, looking for anybody. Does anybody have any? I'm trying to rip this visor off, because if I would have run out there for field goal team, he probably would have cut me. Probably would have just told me to go home.
It's funny that he called me yesterday because we did that big thing on the 75 reasons Gator fans love Steve Spurrier on his 75th birthday. And he said, that thing's really taking off. People are still talking about it. He goes, I started thinking, what's my 75th win at Florida? And he goes, you'll never guess who it was against. And I just went, Central Michigan again. No, I said Central Michigan. He goes, how did you know that?
Oh, my goodness.
So I just was guessing, totally. And so he said, I called Dougie, we talked about the 7 TDs passes he threw, and then he went on this. He's bored like everybody else. So he went on this long thing about how his 150th career win came against Georgia, and his 200th career win came against Georgia, and all the went back and forth. he just kept going on and on. I said, "Man, you need to get out in the golf course, brother. You are bored to tears." But
Pat, the things he knows baffles
I know.
me. We're playing in that the Gator golf tournament at university, and I'm sitting in there with Caleb Sturgis. As everybody knows, Caleb Sturgis, one of the greatest kickers at Florida. And Spur walks in, and I said, "Hey, Coach." He said, "Hey, Judd." And I said, "Hey, Coach, you know Caleb Sturgis?" He goes, "Oh, yeah, Caleb Sturgis." And he looks down, and he goes, "Caleb, did you know that Judd was the first All-American kicker ever at Florida? And you were the second one." And Caleb looks at me and goes, I didn't know that. I didn't know that either, Coach. He goes, "Yep, that's how it was." And he just kind of walked off mumbling.
He retains everything. It's pretty amazing.
Oh,
well, yeah. Hey, speaking of Georgia, I want to leave on this note with you guys. We all have been talking because we don't have a whole lot to talk about, and we're going to continue to talk about how Florida has to beat Georgia this year. They have to beat them to win the East. If you were giving them a pep talk, what would you say to them? Because clearly this team Georgia's a little bit in their heads, having beaten 3 in a row.
You know, I would say that we've got to find something to the guys, obviously they're gonna train, they're gonna get fired up, and they're gonna for Georgia. But oh my goodness, when the coach for Georgia, I can't remember his name right now, but when he had those guys go out Mark Richt, after the first touchdown, and the whole team went out. I'm just glad I wasn't out there, because we would have fought, period. I mean, there's no question. They would have been slinging helmets or whatever, but there's no way I would have let them come off the field onto my field, and all those guys, somebody would have got hit. But anyway, we've got to find something to get those guys, a trick play. Coach Spurrier would be all about a trick play, the first play of the game, go deep, whatever. But we have the talent to beat them. There's no question about it. We just got to find, like you said, whatever that edge is, we've got to get it. Heck, maybe we need Brock out there. We've got an edge there now.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, Pat, it's funny because when we were at Florida, I mean, what did we go, 11 of 12 edge against Georgia? And
it was just
expected, but our Georgia then was Florida State, right? I mean, It was just like we couldn't get past it. I mean, the choke it doke. I even hate to say it, when they came back. So it's now there. I mean, it's like these young kids think, oh, Florida loses to Georgia. They don't know anything different. They don't realize how we used to just dominate Georgia. So it's just got to become an expected thing, and Edge is right. You got to do something. I mean, I remember when the year after the whole team ran on the field, Georgia, remember Urban and Tebow, they called 3 consecutive timeouts with a minute left. Just to stick it in their face.
They ran Emmanuel Moody. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I mean, that was the greatest thing I'd ever seen. We got to get that, like I said, the edge back somehow.
Maybe go for 2 after the first touchdown. Something like that.
Right.
Or maybe they can get Ray Goof to be on the other sideline. If they just sneak him on there, and it'll just.
If they do that, there's no chance. We win by 100.
Pat, we used to want to run a fake, Edge and I, so badly. We used to come up with it. I'll roll left, Edge, you just pull out, and we would go to Spur and say, "Coach, we need to fake it." He looked at us. The idea of going for Spur to fake and not having his offense out there and letting 2 idiot kickers try to get it. Dude, he looked at us like we had 3 heads. Like, get out of here.
All right, guys. Shayne Edge and Judd Davis, what a great pleasure it was to talk to you. And yes, I told Shayne earlier, I'm going to come up there to Lake City and play golf with you. Just be nice to me, because I'm an old man now. I don't hit the ball very far. A little popcorn drives, and I'm just trying to break 90. So it's not like the old days.
You just let me know when you want to come up, Pat. We're always ready.
All right,
Pat,
guys.
we'll go up together. We'll go up together to the city. We'll go play with Edge up there.
There you go. Hey, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. We're going to take a break right now on the Pot Up with Matthews in the morning. Right now, we're taking a break.
Time out! Time out! Hey, time out! Time out! Time out! There we go. Good.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Let's give them something to cheer for now.
Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security, small enough to serve you, large enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Peachland Dentistry, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and surrounding areas. Area Rug Masters, your number one choice for rug cleaning, and Pound Hurt, preferred personal injury attorneys.
Our touchdown sponsors are Gator BTW, Campus USA Credit Union, Celebration Point Town Center, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, The Keys Grill and Piano Bar, UF Mover Guys, The Digital Mortgage Guy, Adams Ribs, Cloud9 Spa, Coldstone Creamery, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Center State Bank.
If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, potupwithshayne.com, and click on the advertise button or call Freddie Wiebe at 352-284-3733.
Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
He's looking, still looking. He's going for the end zone. He's got a touchdown.
All right, welcome back to the Pot Up with Matthews in the morning. And I'm Pat Dooley, sports columnist of the Gainesville Sun. Shayne is out today, and obviously we've been talking about a lot of things that have been going on. But, you know, one thing that we haven't talked about is basketball. And Florida got a big commitment yesterday. Kawasi Reeves, am I pronouncing that right? Is there any way I'm pronouncing it right? Probably not. We'll have to wait till he gets here to find out exactly how to pronounce it and where that name comes from. But he is a big-time recruit for Florida. Again, Mike White just keeps adding to it, and that's what you do. Look, if Andrew Nembhard leaves, and which I think he will, I don't think you make a declaration for the draft twice in consecutive years and then come back the second time. I think he's ready to be not necessarily an NBA player, but a professional basketball player. And he's ready to go and see what that holds for him, and that's fine. If Trey Mann decides to leave, you know, because people are in his ear, you know, telling him he needs to leave, and he's going to buy into that. That's his life. He's got to deal with it. But you just keep adding pieces, and you'll still be fine. I think Gator fans also need to kind of back off on Mike White. Look, nobody was really happy with this season. Okay, it was a struggle for Florida. They had a hard time being consistent. When they were good, they were really good. And when they were bad, they were awful. Like the girl with the curl in her forehead, right? I said, boy, that goes right over the millennial's head there. But the bottom line is Mike White just keeps recruiting and doing a good job with that. They're doing it the right way. They're not getting involved in SBI wiretaps. And, you know, I think the team he had last year was a hard team for him to coach, as a guy who's never had that kind of talent before. But also there are a lot of egos when you have that many 5 stars. Guys aren't getting to play enough. They complain. You know, you have to get your locker room straightened out. And it took them a while. I would have loved to have seen what would have happened at the end of the season with this basketball team. Would they have been able to put a run together in the SEC tournament? And they were in the tournament, in the NCAA tournament. They were literally eating pregame meal at Nashville at the SEC tournament when they found out that they weren't going to play, and then found out later that their season was over. But I would love to have seen that. I would love to see what they could have done in Nashville, and I would have loved to have seen what they could have done in the NCAA tournament. So, but here's the thing. If they went 1 and out, or even 2 and out, it would just be part of their negative legacy, which is what I think a lot of fans look at this team as, a team that should have been better than they were, even though they got better as the year went along. But if they had won a couple of games in Nashville, maybe lose to Kentucky in the semis, go to the tournament, knock off a couple teams, get to the Elite or Sweet 16, I think people would look at this team totally different. And that's the thing. That's where at the tournaments, especially the second tournament. The first tournament's a big deal. The second tournament's your entire season. It's no matter what you've done. And even that team that won 30 games in a row, which was an amazing story. No NBA players, 30 straight wins. They win all those games. They win the SEC tournament, beat Kentucky in the final by a point. Unbelievable game. They had that incredible stretch, had gone perfect in the SEC, which nobody had ever done before. But that first game they're playing, I think it was Albany, right? And they're struggling. And if all of a sudden this becomes the first 16 to beat a 1, that team's not remembered fondly, even with all the great things they did. Nobody's sitting there and going, oh, yeah, I remember that team. Yeah, they blew it. But instead, they pulled that game out, pull off a tough game the next game, go up to Memphis, win both games there, and they got to the Final Four. Now, that team, even with 30 straight wins, is not remembered as fondly as two teams that won the national championship. And even the 2000 team, which got to the national championship game, But that's just the way your legacies are built. My point being, this team never got to build its legacy and finish off his legacy, but he keeps doing a really good job in bringing in players. So Florida, we'll see what they look like next year. It'll depend a little bit. Again, if Trey Mann comes back, he comes back. If he doesn't, he doesn't. It's not like it's a great loss. Now, I do think he would be, if he came back, I think he would be a huge factor for Florida this year. I think he learned a lot and figured out how to get his shots off and figured out what he needed to do to be on the court. So that was all going on. There was news in gymnastics, of course, this week with Jenny Rowland being named gymnastics. Sorry, the word wouldn't come out of my mouth. Gymnastics National Coach of the Year. What a job she did. They were great. And again, but legacy-wise, didn't have one. Great team, ranked number 2 in the country. Baseball, legacy-wise, none, 0. 16-1, number 1 in the country when it went down. No, sorry, you have no legacy. Softball, no legacy. 24-6. That's just the way it is. It's just the way it is with this cancellations and everything. So those athletes, a lot of them I feel sorry for. Now, some of them are coming back. In the case of softball, for example, Florida lost Sophia Reynoso because she wants to major in athletic training. She wants to get her grad degree in that. Florida doesn't offer that, so she's going to go to school out in California. But everybody else is going to come back for that senior year that they get extra. Baseball-wise, Kirby McMullen's already said he's coming back. Austin Langworthy has not, and I think a lot will depend on the draft and what happens there. They haven't even decided, I don't think, for sure when the draft is going to be, but and how many rounds it's going to be. They're still trying to make up their minds on that. I would not be surprised to see Austin not back, and if that happens, I mean, he's a real good clubhouse guy and a very good player as well. What a career he had. Maybe it's time to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to move on and figure out what I want to do the rest of my life. So we'll see what happens with that. All right. So I appreciate everybody for listening in, subbing in for Shayne today. And just to let everybody know, Shayne's father passed away last night, and that's why he's not able to do the show. I feel terrible because I knew his dad a little bit, and he used to come to all his practice. In fact, what Judd said, how he went to Spurrier and said, I'm better than these guys. I need to kick. That's what Shayne's dad did. He went to him and said, hey, I came all the way here from Mississippi to watch my son in a scrimmage, and he didn't play. And Spurrier said, you're right. He should have gotten in the game, but he didn't. And so we'll make sure he gets in next time. Next thing you know, he goes on to be the SEC Player of the Year and did a great job. So our condolences, our thoughts, our prayers are always Shayne and his family, and certainly sad day, when you wake up to that news. It's certainly not a great way to start a morning, but I hope I did well here and allowed everybody to listen in, and I appreciate I was going to be on Shayne's podcast anyway. So all right, so that's going to do it for me. I'm Pat Dooley, sports columnist of the Gainesville Sun, and I will be deep, I'll be way back, and then I will be out of here.